This is the hardest escape room in Minecraft. It's full of traps, puzzles, and absolutely cruel details that make it borderline impossible to solve. And I'm going to attempt to escape it and afterwards send it over to a few of my friends to see if they can beat it or resign trying. But first, I had to escape. When I first spawned into the room, a bunch of things stuck out to me. The first was this weird Swiss cheese formation of blocks on the right corner of the room, but more importantly was the lectern with the book in the center. I read the book, which pretty much just detailed instructions on what the room was about, telling me to leave no stone unturned and to make a backup. So after making a backup, I then went over to check what was in the chest. Inside was what appeared to be a random assortment of items. There were 2 bamboo, 3 popped chorus fruit, 2 rabbit hides, a cobweb, and a copper block. I knew you could make a stick out of 2 bamboo, but I still didn't want to do it just in case I could place the bamboo somewhere else. I could not, but I was still hesitant since it was a permanent decision. As for the rest of the items, I changed the crafting guide to show craftable, and I saw I could also make copper ingots, although I wasn't sure what I could make from them. I then collected all the torches on the wall because you never know when they might come in handy. After that, I went back to the Swiss cheese structure on the right. I thought it might be used to hide an item, and turns out I was right. In one of the slots there was a piece of rabbit hide, although I still don't know what that did. After checking all the other slots and finding nothing, I went back to the center to grab the lectern. I needed 6 blocks to escape from this room, and this lectern could be one of them. However, what I didn't expect was a pair of shears underneath the lectern. Now I had 2 blocks counting the copper, but I needed 4 more. This was already getting tricky, but then I remembered I also had the 2 blocks in the back, the crafting table and the chest. And even better, underneath the crafting table was a piece of rabbit hide. This meant I could now craft a piece of leather, and even though I didn't know what to do with that, I had no idea what else rabbit hide could be used for, so I decided to go for it. Now I had 4 blocks, but I still needed 2 more. There was either something in my inventory that I was missing, or something else in the room. I knew that if I placed this copper block, I couldn't get it back, so I decided to craft it into ingots and see if there was a recipe I just didn't remember. And luckily, there was. This craft unlocked lightning rods, which gave me 3 blocks for the price of 1. Now I had all that I needed to pillar out of the room. I gave the room one last survey, but decided I completely looted it and exited. Across the hallway there were 2 exits. One led into a room with another exit, an armor stand, and a piece of rabbit hide hidden in a corner. The other was a dark corridor, but unlike the room I could actually come back, so I decided to check that one out because maybe there were some helpful items. At first there was nothing but a winding corridor, and I wondered if the maze was just wasting my time. But then I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a piece of string. Now at first, this may seem like a good thing because I found a hidden clue, but this was actually terrifying, because that meant that there could have been string in the first room, and now I was going to be paranoid about finding string for the whole map. At the end of the corridor, there was a cake. Now the difficulty was on peaceful mode, so I didn't have to eat, and I'm pretty sure I couldn't even break the cake. But just in case, after a bit of debate, I broke it with my shears and it dropped nothing. Hopefully I didn't need it. But now it was time to go back into room 1 and search for string. And while I was spam clicking, I broke a piece of string. This one wasn't even on the ground, and I literally didn't see it until I broke it, meaning that there could be string right above me as well, and I would have no idea. So I scoured the rest of the room, and after a little while I found yet another piece of string. Now I was worried that there could be hundreds, so just to be safe, I scoured the entire room twice to make sure I hadn't missed anything. Also, while I'm checking for string, I'd like to quickly ask that if you are enjoying the video, then please consider subscribing. 2022 is just around the corner, and it'd be awesome to make that year even better than this one, but I can't do it without your help. So if you end up enjoying this video and figure out how to escape before me, then please do subscribe. Also, I would like to give a brief thank you to Seawalk Gaming for inspiring this video format, so if you end up enjoying this video, then go check out his. But hey, it looks like I finished gathering string, so let's get right back into it. From what I could find, there was one more piece of string in the room, so I took it and then realized I was actually stuck. And can I break a lightning rod with my fist? No. Good thing I made a backup. After loading the backup and collecting the materials, I made my way into room number 2. I pulled off the best clutch of my career and then went into the corner to grab the armor stand, which had a full set of iron armor and an iron sword. While checking, I realized I could make wool from the string, which seemed like a good decision, but just to stay safe, I saved my string for now. I only needed 3 blocks to reach this exit, and counting the wool, I already had 1 of them. Using my sword, I turned my cobweb into another piece of string because maybe I had to make 3 blocks of wool. This was a bit of a risk, but I didn't see why else I would need need a sword because we were on peaceful mode. The only thing left in the room was this strange outlet with a furnace and 2 blocks of tinted glass underneath. Behind the furnace was another piece of rabbit hide, and inside the furnace was a stick and a piece of coal. I could now make a torch, but since the coal was already in the furnace, I knew I had to smelt something, but I didn't know what. I then turned my attention to the tinted glass under the furnace. I didn't want to break it because obviously glass breaks and you can't get it back, so I turned into F5 mode to see if I could spot a button or something under the furnace. And after finding nothing, I decided to just YOLO it and break the tinted glass, and to my surprise, it actually dropped the item. Didn't know you could do that. Even better, there was another piece of tinted glass, which means if I made my string into wool, I could fully escape the room. But I wasn't done just yet because the furnace must be here for a reason. I started clicking every item into the furnace until one entered, and boom, the sword. And then I remembered that swords and armor could actually be smelted into iron nuggets, so I loaded up all my gear into the furnace to get 5 iron nuggets. I wasn't sure for what, but I'm positive this was correct because, again, we're on peaceful mode. While the gear smelted, I checked the entire room for string and found nothing, which means I could take my 5 iron nuggets and exit the room. This next room was massive. I could see different parts of the map, but what was more important was the floor. Right in front of me there was a green pattern of blocks with a drip leaf, 2 bamboo, and another rabbit hide. Inside a little crevice in the wall was a chorus fruit in an item frame, a furnace, and a workbench. Behind the bee nest, I found another piece of rabbit hide, which means I could now craft 2 pieces of leather. I still didn't know what the leather was going to be for, so I turned my attention to getting the chorus fruit. But when I tried to get it, disaster struck. The chorus fruit was placed in a way that it was lodged into the wall, and I had 5 minutes to get it or the item despawned, and I would definitely lose. This had to be on purpose. I tried to place a drip leaf to push the chorus fruit out, but that was stupid, and now I had 2 items stuck in the wall with no way to get them out. I checked my inventory, I could only craft another stick, another leather, and literally nothing else. This was bad. If I didn't figure out this puzzle fast, I would lose the challenge. I tried everything. I went to check if I could smelt something, and I couldn't. I went to the beehive to interact with it, but I was too scared to be bees inside and didn't want to break it just in case it wouldn't drop. I broke one of the green blocks hoping it would drop, but to no avail. And then, in the midst of all the panic, I realized what I had to do. I urgently checked the entire room for string before finally finding a piece in the corner, and I used that string as well as the bamboo to craft a fishing rod, which let me pull the chorus fruit and the drip leaf just in time. After searching and finding no more string, I turned to the pattern in the floor. In an escape room like this, I couldn't take any chances, so I spent a sad amount of time breaking every single block in the floor for absolutely nothing. However, while I was breaking it, I thought of what I could smelt and nothing came to mind. Until I remembered I could shear the bee nest to collect honey, which granted unlocked nothing and couldn't be smelted, but still gave me more potential options in the future. After painfully breaking the last block for no reason, I went back to the furnace to see what I could smelt, and there it was right in front of me, chorus fruit. I wasn't sure if this was the right move though, because there was no going back afterwards. On the 1 in 7 trillion chance that I teleported directly to the exit, this chorus fruit could come in handy, but I didn't particularly like those odds, so I picked up the mouse and decided to smelt the chorus fruit. Now with the 4 popped chorus fruit, I saw I could make purpur, and guess what? It made 4, which meant I was out of this room and into the next. I didn't know if I should use the purpur or the drip leaf, but the drip leaf seemed more versatile, so I decided to save it for later. The next room I entered was definitely different. The ceiling was covered in powdered snow instead of the usual barrier, so I took the opportunity to break a few pieces. I then noticed a piece of sand, but it was just outside my field of view and I couldn't get it. I turned on hitboxes, and as I suspected, there was an item frame on top of the sand, probably holding a useful item. I also couldn't see any other blue lines, so I hesitantly jumped down and explored the bottom of the room. On my way down, I broke a piece of string, which again reminded me that I have to literally explore every square inch of the map. What confused me, however, was that there were 2 exits. One very high in the wall and another 1 block exit that I wasn't sure how to get to. I used my drip leaf to get over the wall and was just able to see 2 warped signs. Then after jumping down, I realized that I was stupid and I was also stuck. But after a bit of tinkering with the rod, I made my way out and towards the lava. I had no idea what it was for though, so I tilted my camera to get a better peek and found nothing. This was a dilemma. There was a sand block stuck in the roof and I had no way to get it down. I checked my crafting guide and noticed I could make a candle and maybe I could melt the powdered snow, but how was I gonna light the candle? I decided to save the candle because if I got another honeycomb, I could craft a honey block and that would be a perfect way to help me up. I tried to see if I could use my fishing rod to fish the item frame, but after testing I realized it was impossible. I was stuck. I spent about 10 minutes just wandering around until I noticed something. The bobber of my fishing rod retained the fire when I threw it into lava, so maybe, just maybe... Oh, that's so cool! What? Oh my god. Alright, I'm just gonna do this whole ceiling then. With that mystery solved, I was able to easily get the sand block and found a piece of string on an item frame. While there, I also noticed another blue line which turned out to be a boat on a second block of sand. Now I had 2 blocks of sand, 2 string, and a boat, and I wasn't sure how to get out. After checking the room for string, I gave up on the small exit and decided to see if I could stack up to the bigger one. And after using the boat, torches, and sand, I could just barely make it out of the room, and now I was in the next one. But this next room seemed impossible. I walked in and was greeted by a chest with another honeycomb and 4 eggs. Now I could indeed make a honey block, but I was still unsure if I had to use the candles for something, so I didn't do it just yet. But the most confusing part of this room was the exit. It was a solid wall made out of bedrock and barriers with no holes in a weird M formation. I tried using my boat to phase through the wall and corner, but that didn't work out. I was stuck again. But what also made me confused was the small hole. If the big hole up top was the exit, then what on earth was the point of the smaller hole? Maybe there was another way to get through that I was missing. So I walked back up into the previous room and collected my stuff. Somehow I had to escape this room through the smaller hole. But how? Yet again, I tried using the boat and then put sand on top of myself to trick the game into letting me in. It did not. But what caught my attention was the way I dismounted the boat. It put me underneath the wall. Maybe there was a way to dismount the boat into the 1 block gap. So I tried it, and to my amazement, it worked. I had gotten through using no blocks, and I could collect my boat. It was perfect. But that still left me with no idea what to do next. After several long minutes of headbanging, I decided to try the sand boat strategy again, and to my amazement, it actually worked. I had phased through the wall of the room. This next room was even smaller and had 2 signs. They told me to deposit the boat and fishing rod, and I was about to do it without complaint, but then I noticed something. The walls are 2 blocks thick. What does that mean? I don't have my sand anymore, so how could I phase through anyway? Did I even need the sand? This one disclaimer made me question about my previous methods, and I began trying to place my boat as close to the wall as possible. Maybe you didn't even need sand to phase through. And then I did it. I popped right through the wall. Using this newfound technique, I got my sand and phased back into the sign room. I tried throwing a torch into the hopper, but after 3 minutes of waiting, I decided to just comply and throw in my boat and fishing rod. They were probably too OP anyway. So I waited and waited, and nothing was happening until what felt like ages later when I was suddenly teleported into the next room. This next room was by far the largest one yet. It had this weird patterned ceiling and a ledge with the exit. While searching for string, I actually found 2 pieces, which meant I could craft 4 candles or a block of wool. To reach the ledge, I would need 8 blocks. Above the ledge, I would still need 2 blocks to escape, which brought my total to 10. And I had 4. The other half of the room contained a block of ice above a hole and a stream of lava. I knew that since there was no block below the ice, I had to melt it or it wouldn't turn into water and give me an exit. But how? I considered blocking off the lava, but that didn't work since lava only flows 3 blocks in the overworld. I tried using my soul torches, but after a few minutes I determined they weren't powerful enough to melt the ice. Yet again, I was stuck. Or so I thought. I was thinking back to the previous rooms, and then I remembered something. The way the fishing rod carried the fire to the snow, maybe I could find a way to carry this lava to a candle. This almost definitely seemed correct, so I buckled down and made 4 candles. Now I just needed a way to light them. And then it hit me. Eggs. These eggs would work perfectly as projectiles, and after missing 1 shot, I hit the money on the 2nd shot and even spawned a chicken. It worked. The candles were lit. And just a minute later, the ice melted, revealing a new room underneath. Inside the room was a chest with 2 green terracotta blocks, 7 rabbit hides, and an iron nugget. I still had no use for the rabbit hide or iron nuggets, but these terracotta plus the chest raised my block total to 7 out of 10. While searching the room for string, I also found a piece of glow lichen behind the lava, but I had no idea what to do with it, so I just kept it for now. I tested to see if I could climb it like vines, but no, it was useless. Somehow I had to pull out 3 more blocks from what I had. I tested to see if I could stack up with candles, but that didn't work either. This was another dilemma. I then thought there might be a hidden item on top of the ledge, so I pillared up but saw nothing. Even if there was, I was still missing the 8th block to make it onto the ledge. Then, after a long time of just messing around, I tried to make a candle staircase. Obviously, I was still just using the blocks as bases, but when I broke it, I noticed something. These candles float. Honestly, I probably should have known that since the very basic thing, but I guess it just seemed counterintuitive. Armed with this knowledge, I was able to make it up with just the right amount of blocks. While walking to the next room, I noticed a random button, so I pressed it, but nothing seemed to happen, so I just grabbed it and entered the next room. There were several different routes in this room. One led to an end portal frame, which I couldn't break, and I soon had to find a way to get over. The other path led to some powdered snow and a chest, and immediately I knew what to do. All this dumb rabbit hide would finally help me out, and just when it dawned on me that I only had 15 rabbit hide, I noticed a blue line of an item frame and grabbed my 16th hide. Using this crafting table hidden behind a really random quartz stair, I made my hide into leather boots to cross the powdered snow. Inside the chest was a 7th iron nugget, which brought my total to almost enough to craft a soul lantern. Imagine if I hadn't gotten those torches at the start, I probably would have been screwed. But that still begged the question, where is the 8th nugget? I guess it probably had to be in a hole in the roof, so I searched the entire ceiling but found nothing. I checked out the snow room again, but there was nothing there either. I checked my inventory, and yet again, I only counted 7. For probably the millionth time, I was bamboozled. I had no idea where the last 8th iron nugget was. I was nearly sure that I missed something in a previous room, but I didn't know what. Literally 20 minutes later, I was organizing my stuff to see if I could find a new recipe instead, but to my surprise, when I grouped the iron nuggets, I had 8. Where on earth did this 8th one come from, you may ask? Well, after reviewing the footage, it was on my head this whole time, and I couldn't see it because of my big dumb Santa hat. It was literally on my head, and I just didn't notice at all. Well, I finally crafted the soul lantern and hopped over the end portal frame and into the last room. The moment I entered this room, I knew it was going to be hard. It was a completely blank room filled entirely with lava and one source block in front of me. The distance to the edge was 9 blocks, and to reach the end, I had to find a way across. On the side of the bridge, there was an empty item frame which I collected in case I needed it, although I had no idea what for. Checking my inventory, this puzzle seemed impossible. I was thoroughly stumped. I had 0 placeable blocks, and the only thing I hadn't really used were the signs and glow light, but those don't do anything, so what's that about? I had no clue how to get across. I checked for a barrier to jump on, but there was nothing to find. This was helpless. Yet again, I wondered if I had missed something on the way, but I couldn't think of anything that could help me. Maybe a boat? What made things even weirder was this one piece of lava, which definitely serves a purpose, otherwise why would it be there? But for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why on earth it was there. So I spent almost 45 minutes just thinking, pacing back and forth and just debating on whether or not to call it quits. But then, it hit me. A glitch that I had discovered in one of my previous videos, but it almost seemed too crazy. Even for this. I mean, the book did say anything goes. When I was given the world, I was told to play on version 1.17.1, but I was about to ignore that. I closed the world and changed my launcher version to 21W03A, a seemingly meaningless snapshot just after 1.16.5. In this new version, I booted up the world, made a backup, and crossed my fingers. Would this work? And it did. There is only one version of the game where if you place a glow lichen onto a flowing source of lava, it turns into water, 21W03A. And after almost failing to make the jump to the end, I had finally beaten the hardest escape room in Minecraft. Although maybe that answer is a little scuffed. So I do ask you, the viewer, to let me know in the comments any possible ideas you may have as to how to solve the last room had you been in my position. I would love to hear it. And if you want to see me torture a bunch of YouTubers with this exact same room, then that video will be up on my second channel, Wifies, in just a few days. Also, join the Discord in the description. It's lonely without you, but of course, as always, peace out, have a good one, thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.